What if one private royal meeting changed everything? A gathering so secretive that even longtime palace insiders were left asking questions. A meeting reportedly arranged at short notice behind the walls of Windsor Castle. No public announcements, no official statements. And according to reports, unusual restrictions were suddenly put in place. But what happened next is what has everyone talking. Sources claim Princess Catherine arrived carrying confidential briefing folders containing information that had allegedly been building behind the scenes for months. What she reportedly presented at that meeting was not a personal accusation, not a public confrontation, and not another royal disagreement. Instead, it was said to be a carefully organized collection of concerns involving future royal patronages, internal communications, and a series of developments connected to some of the most influential figures within the royal household. And according to reports, Queen Camilla did not expect what was about to be revealed. Why would Catherine decide to raise these concerns now? What was contained inside those confidential documents? And why are insiders claiming the information pointed to a much larger pattern that had quietly unfolded away from public view? The answers reportedly emerged during a private family council that few people even knew had taken place. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe and tell us in the comments. Do you think important decisions within the royal family should happen behind closed doors, or should the public know more about what goes on inside the palace? Now, let's take a closer look at the meeting that reportedly left senior royals stunned. According to reports, Queen Camilla reportedly did not see this coming, and that is what has people talking. For years, she was known as someone who understood the mood inside royal circles and knew how to handle difficult situations. After facing years of criticism following the Diana era, she slowly rebuilt her image and eventually became queen consort. She managed that journey with very little public conflict, which is why these latest claims have attracted so much attention. According to sources, the situation unfolded during a private family council at Windsor Castle. This was reportedly not a routine royal meeting. The gathering was said to have been arranged quickly and surrounded by an unusual level of secrecy. Staff were allegedly instructed to stay quiet about what was happening, and restrictions were reportedly placed on phones in certain areas. Those kinds of measures immediately sparked curiosity among palace insiders. Then Catherine reportedly entered the meeting, carrying confidential briefing folders. Sources familiar with the claims say she arrived prepared and determined to address concerns she believed needed attention. Rather than creating a dramatic scene, she was described as calm, focused, and highly organized. That measured approach reportedly made her arguments more difficult to challenge. The documents were said to involve future royal patronages, internal communications, and developments that had been quietly unfolding for months. According to reports, Catherine outlined a pattern that she believed deserved closer examination. The concern was not about public disputes or personal attacks. Instead, it allegedly focused on behind-the-scenes influence connected to the future direction of royal responsibilities and patronages. Royal patronages are often viewed as much more than ceremonial titles. They can shape public visibility, charitable work, and long-term influence within the institution. Reports claim Catherine raised questions about private discussions, informal promises, and strategic positioning tied to those roles. What reportedly gave weight to her concerns was not one isolated incident, but a broader pattern that sources say had been developing over time. According to reports, the concerns raised during the meeting were not based on one isolated incident. Sources claim the documents included scheduling adjustments, staffing changes, and recommendations connected to people believed to be closely associated with Camilla's inner circle. On their own, those details may not have seemed significant, but when viewed together, insiders say they appeared to reveal a pattern that had been developing quietly behind the scenes for quite some time. No one was openly accusing anyone of wrongdoing, and there were reportedly no dramatic allegations being thrown around the room. However, Sources suggest the information was serious enough that Catherine felt the matter could no longer be ignored. According to those familiar with the claims, she carefully walked attendees through the material, presenting it in a calm and structured way that kept the focus on the broader institutional implications rather than personal disagreements. Prince William was reportedly fully supportive throughout the discussion. Sources say he appeared visibly tense and increasingly direct as the meeting progressed. His concern allegedly centered on transparency and accountability, particularly when it came to future decisions involving royal patronages and staffing influence. According to insiders, William viewed the issue as bigger than palace politics. He reportedly understood that public trust in the monarchy depended heavily on stability and unity behind the scenes, making any signs of internal friction especially sensitive. The moment that reportedly changed the atmosphere came when Princess Anne entered the discussion. Anne has long been respected for her commitment to duty and her reputation for speaking plainly. Sources claim she backed Catherine's concerns and encouraged everyone to focus on institutional standards instead of personal loyalties. Her involvement reportedly carried significant weight because she is not known for taking sides lightly. Camilla, according to reports, strongly rejected the concerns. Sources say she argued that what some viewed as strategic positioning was actually routine planning being interpreted in the wrong way. Given her long history of public scrutiny, that response was understandable. Insiders claim she felt ordinary decisions were being viewed with unnecessary suspicion. Even so, by the end of the meeting, many believed the conversation had shifted in a meaningful way. What reportedly stood out most was Catherine's composure under pressure. Multiple sources described her as focused, precise, and determined to keep the discussion centered on institutional concerns rather than personal grievances, a detail that left a lasting impression on those present. That mix of calm delivery and detailed preparation is reportedly what made Catherine's concerns so difficult to dismiss. According to insiders, it was not just about what she presented, but how she presented it. Sources claim her approach kept the focus on the facts being discussed, making it harder for others to brush aside the issues as simple misunderstandings. And for many observers, that meeting was only the beginning of a much larger story. To understand why her concerns reportedly carried so much weight, it helps to look at how Camilla built her position within the royal family over the years. Her rise was not sudden, and it certainly did not happen without challenges. For a long time, she faced intense public criticism, especially because of the lasting impact of the Diana era. Many people struggled to imagine a future where she would eventually become queen consort. Yet despite those obstacles, she steadily strengthened her standing within royal circles. According to royal watchers, Camilla's strategy was never about dramatic public campaigns or grand gestures. Instead, she focused on maintaining close relationships, supporting Charles, and gradually earning trust within key parts of the institution. Over time, she developed connections with people whose influence helped shape how royal operations function behind the scenes. Those relationships were reportedly built through years of private interactions rather than public attention. Sources claim that by the time Charles became king, Camilla had established a strong network of allies and supporters. These were not official groups or formal structures. However, insiders suggest that trusted relationships often played a role in determining access, influence, and visibility within royal circles. In an institution where public roles can shape long-term relevance, those connections can carry significant importance. That background is reportedly what led Catherine to pay closer attention to certain developments. According to sources, her concerns did not appear overnight. Instead, they allegedly grew over time as she noticed a series of scheduling adjustments, staffing decisions, and changes connected to future royal responsibilities. Individually, each decision seemed routine and easy to explain. But when viewed together, insiders claim a broader pattern appeared to emerge. Reports suggest that advisors and figures closely linked to Camilla's circle seem to be gaining influence in areas where even small shifts could have wider implications for the monarchy's future direction. According to reports, no one publicly confirmed any improper conduct or rule-breaking. However, insiders claim Catherine's concern was never focused on one specific decision. Instead, sources suggest she became increasingly focused on the overall direction that a series of decisions appeared to be taking. The issue, according to those familiar with the situation, was whether the monarchy was gradually moving away from long-established institutional processes and becoming more influenced by private relationships and informal networks operating behind the scenes. Reports also suggest that Prince Edward and Sophie were paying close attention to some of these developments. That detail has attracted attention because Edwards and Sophie are generally known for staying out of royal disputes and avoiding unnecessary controversy. Over the years, they have built reputations for discretion, stability, and loyalty to the institution. According to insiders, the fact that they were reportedly monitoring staffing changes and broader structural shifts suggests that concerns may have extended beyond just Catherine and William. Sources claim that a major turning point came when Catherine was reportedly given a collection of documents at Kensington Palace. According to Palace insiders, she spent hours reviewing correspondence, internal proposals, and recommendations linked to future royal responsibilities. What reportedly stood out was not a single shocking detail or dramatic revelation. Instead, it was the way multiple pieces of information appeared to connect together, creating what some sources described as a much larger picture. Among the materials she reviewed were reportedly discussions involving future ceremonial arrangements, patronages, and long-term planning connected to the monarchy's public role. Individually, the proposals were said to appear routine and administrative. However, insiders claim that when viewed collectively, they raised broader questions about influence, visibility, and future decision-making within the institution. According to reports, Catherine's concern centered on what these developments could mean years down the road. Sources suggest she became increasingly focused on questions of legacy and leadership. The issue was not simply about staffing decisions or ceremonial responsibilities. Instead, it reportedly involved who would help shape the monarchy's identity in the future and how that influence might be exercised behind the scenes. For those following the situation, that larger question is what made the matter feel so significant and why it reportedly continued to attract attention within royal circles. According to reports, concerns about scheduling changes and private recommendations were never really about those individual decisions alone. Sources claim each development was viewed as part of a much larger question involving future influence within the monarchy and how authority might be shaped during the transition toward Prince William's eventual reign. For some insiders, the discussion was less about day-to-day administration and more about the long-term balance of power inside the institution. Princess Anne reportedly summed up the concern with a phrase that stayed with people long after the meeting ended: boundaries were quietly disappearing. According to sources, those words quickly gained attention within royal circles because they captured what Catherine had allegedly been trying to demonstrate through the documents and patterns she had been reviewing. The concern was not about a single event, but about the gradual blurring of lines that had traditionally helped define roles and responsibilities. Within the monarchy, royal observers often note that the institution depends on clear distinctions between official duties, personal relationships, and informal influence. Those boundaries are viewed as important because they help maintain accountability and prevent confusion over who is shaping decisions. According to insiders, some senior figures reportedly worried that those distinctions were becoming harder to identify as new alliances and networks emerged behind the scenes. At the same time, whispers reportedly circulated about something referred to as the Regency Circle. Sources say the phrase meant different things depending on who was discussing it. Some believed it described individuals preparing for the future transition into William's reign. Others viewed it as a loose collection of influential figures, seeking to maintain visibility and relevance as the next generation of royal leadership moved closer. Whatever the reality, the mere existence of the term reportedly fueled speculation and heightened concerns about unofficial influence within the institution. By the time Catherine entered the Windsor meeting, insiders claim she had already reached a conclusion. According to reports, she believed the risks of remaining silent outweighed the risks of speaking up. The discussions that followed reportedly had effects that extended well beyond that single gathering. In the weeks afterward, palace communications appeared unusually restrained. Statements were brief, public answers remained carefully worded, and experienced royal reporters noted the familiar signs of a sensitive issue being handled quietly behind closed doors. For those closely following events, the silence that followed was almost as noticeable as the meeting itself. According to reports, the lack of public discussion quickly became a story of its own. However, insiders claim it was not just the silence that caught attention. Within days of the council meeting, subtle changes reportedly began appearing across royal operations, and many inside the institution took notice. Sources suggest that certain meetings were quietly canceled, while some advisors who had regularly appeared at key engagements were suddenly seen less often. Reports also claim that invitations to private planning discussions began shifting in ways that seemed unusual to those familiar with palace routines. None of these developments were publicly announced or officially explained. Yet insiders say people who understand how influence works within royal circles immediately recognize that something appeared to have changed behind the scenes. According to palace sources, some of the figures most affected were individuals believed to be closely connected to Camilla's network of supporters. Their positions did not reportedly change overnight, nor was there any dramatic public fallout. Instead, insiders describe a gradual shift in visibility and access. Invitations became less frequent, appearances became less prominent, and certain connections reportedly seemed weaker than before. In royal circles, sources say those kinds of changes can send a powerful message without a single public statement being made. At the same time, reports suggest Catherine was receiving increasing support from experienced palace figures. These were individuals who had spent years working within the institution and who were said to be closely monitoring internal developments. According to insiders, many respected her approach because it appeared measured, organized, and focused on institutional concerns rather than personal disagreements. That reputation reportedly strengthened in the weeks following the meeting. Sources also claim that Catherine earned significant respect for maintaining her composure despite the pressure surrounding the situation. Within royal households, there is often admiration for individuals who can handle difficult circumstances without creating unnecessary conflict. According to reports, that quality became one of the defining features of how her actions were viewed. Meanwhile, Princess Anne reportedly continued working quietly behind the scenes, with insiders suggesting her efforts played an important role in maintaining stability and helping the institution navigate the aftermath of the council discussions. According to reports, Princess Anne continued working quietly behind the scenes to help prevent the situation from growing into a larger institutional problem. Sources suggest her focus was on reinforcing established structures and maintaining stability during a period of growing tension. Anne has long been known for her disciplined approach to royal duties, and insiders claim she understood the importance of addressing concerns without allowing them to develop into a public spectacle. Royal observers often point to Anne's ability to separate personal disagreements from institutional priorities. According to sources, she encouraged attention to remain on process, structure, and responsibility rather than individual personalities. That approach reportedly helped ease concerns among some palace staff who feared the fallout from the council meeting could continue expanding and create further uncertainty within royal households. Meanwhile, King Charles was reportedly facing challenges of his own. According to multiple accounts, the situation placed him in an especially difficult position. Sources suggest the emotional impact of seeing senior members of his family involved in such a serious disagreement weighed heavily on him. Having spent decades navigating complex family relationships within the monarchy, Charles reportedly understood the sensitivities involved better than most. Insiders claim that every possible response carried consequences. Supporting Camilla too strongly risked creating the impressions that concerns raised by William and Catherine were being overlooked. On the other hand, giving greater weight to those concerns could have been viewed as exposing someone close to him to increased scrutiny. According to reports, there was no easy solution and no path that avoided difficult trade-offs. Sources describe Charles during this period as focused on his public duties, but carrying a noticeable sense of pressure behind the scenes. While continuing with official engagements, he was reportedly also dealing with the challenge of maintaining unity within an institution facing internal tensions. Some insiders suggest the contrast between his expectations for his reign and the realities of managing family and institutional disagreements proved especially difficult. Camilla's position, according to reports, remained equally complex. Sources claim she became increasingly frustrated as discussions continued and perceptions within royal circles shifted. Some insiders suggest she felt her intentions had been misunderstood and that routine planning activities were being interpreted as something more controversial than they were meant to be. That disagreement over interpretation reportedly remained at the heart of the ongoing debate. Camilla's reported frustration was, according to insiders, both real and understandable. Sources suggest she felt that much of her time in royal life had been shaped by intense public scrutiny, with many people viewing her actions through a lens of suspicion. Supporters reportedly argue that this has often made it difficult for her intentions to be judged fairly. From that perspective, some believe that routine planning and ordinary institutional decisions were being interpreted as something far more controversial than they actually were. Still, regardless of how different sides viewed the situation, reports suggest that the aftermath of the Windsor Council marked an important turning point within royal circles. According to observers, the balance of influence appeared to shift in subtle but noticeable ways. Palace insiders claim that William and Catherine emerged from the episode more closely aligned than ever before. Their partnership reportedly gained additional credibility among senior figures who viewed stability, transparency, and long-term planning as critical priorities for the monarchy's future. What many found most revealing was not the disagreement itself, but what it seemed to say about the monarchy's next chapter. According to sources, the transition toward William's eventual reign may already be taking shape in quiet ways, not through official announcements or public ceremonies, but through everyday decisions about leadership, trust, and influence. Insiders suggest that these behind-the-scenes developments often reveal more about the future direction of the institution than any public event ever could. Catherine's role in that process has reportedly become impossible to ignore. Sources claim that her actions during the council demonstrated more than loyalty to William as a future king. They suggested a willingness to engage with difficult institutional issues, even when doing so carried significant risks. According to royal observers, that kind of determination is often remembered far longer than ceremonial appearances or carefully planned public engagements. It reflects a readiness to step into challenging situations when important questions about the institution are at stake. Princess Anne reportedly viewed Catherine's conduct positively throughout the episode. Sources suggest Anne believed she displayed qualities that would be valuable in the years ahead. Because Anne is widely respected for her experience and dedication to royal duty, Insiders claim her opinion carried considerable weight among those paying attention to the situation. The Windsor Council itself will likely never receive official confirmation from the palace. Much of what reportedly happened behind those closed doors may remain the subject of speculation for years to come. However, according to insiders, the broader questions raised by the meeting have not disappeared. Discussions about influence, institutional boundaries, and the monarchy's future direction are reportedly still very much alive. And many believe Catherine is now viewed differently than before, not only as a future queen, but as a figure increasingly involved in shaping the conversations that could influence the institution's next era. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment below. Share your thoughts and join the conversation. Your opinion could spark the next big discussion.